Joining me today is Nikki Mehta, a good friend of mine whose life story is just incredible. You would think you've lived 15 lifetimes and you've gone through so much, overcome many things, and yet here you are. So I really appreciate you sitting down with me and sharing your life story, and I really hope this reaches all the right people. So
Thank you.
thank you, Nikki.
Hmm.
Let's talk about your upbringing. You were born in India,
That's
but
right.
you spent some time in the U.S. and some time in India. So what was that like?
Wow, it was really interesting. I grew up there. I was born there in Mumbai. Well, before it used to be Bombay, but now it's Mumbai. They changed it. Compared to from there to here, it was really interesting. I couldn't get adjusted as far as that goes. But schooling was completely different from there to here. I mean, actually, it was really hard for me over there.
Was there like a culture shock for you? I mean, I know you were maybe too little to understand, but like the culture in India versus the U.S. is very different. Religious,
Yes.
just everything is extremely different. So what was that like for you?
I guess it was really neutral for me. When I first got here, I was only 3 years old, so I was still young. As far as culture, as I grew elder, whatever, I found out that Indian culture is way different. And I guess I became Americanized because I was living here more.
Okay.
Although, even though I was going back and forth, I am called Indian American. That's what I consider myself. Yes, I lived here most of my life, even though I was also brought up over there too as well. I didn't think about picking or anything like that. All I knew was I have two places.
Yeah. Your parents were actors
That's
growing
correct.
up.
Yes.
What was that like for you?
I grew fond of my both parents. My dad was strictly like, well, he did both stage and films and modeling, what have you. My mom was strictly stage actress.
Okay.
Okay. I used to tell her, why don't you do, both? And she just said, replied to me that no, only the stage. Why? Because it's challenging and she could literally feel the audience. I would sometimes wonder what would my life would have been like if my parents were still alive. Who knows? Sometimes there's a big question. Would I be in India with my parents? Maybe follow their footsteps?
You mentioned if your parents were still here when you were a teenager, I believe,
Yes.
16 or 17.
Yes.
Your parents passed away
That's correct.
within months of each other, right?
Yes.
What was that like for you and your younger sister?
It was really, really terrible. My stomach just knotted when I found out. At that time, it was December, actually. My mom passed away in 1985. And
You were how old?
I was 17. Yeah, 17 years old. And it was just, we were at that time with our grandparents. And then my mom was still in India and she was going to come for Christmas, but she never did. And the last words she told me was, no matter what happens, the show must go on. That was her words, her statement, should I say. The last thing, and I wonder, question mark, why would she say that? I asked myself, never knew why. But then as the years go by, got older, you know, and then I realized that probably she must have meant was no matter what happens in your life in the future, don't let anybody put you down. Don't let it is you, you're special. The show must go on.
Shortly after your mother's passing, your father passed as well,
Yes.
right?
3 months, right? 3 months after 1986 of March.
How was that for you and your sister?
We were just, like grieving for our mom. And then all of a sudden, what happened to my dad, first of all, I thought somebody else died. Okay, my uncle, what have you, because he was older, you know. I was at work actually, and my aunt came, and I knew something was up. So right away, I said, okay, who died now? Never knew, never guessed. And my aunt sit me down and just said that, no, it's not your uncle. It's not your aunt, nobody. And I'm like, okay, who could it be? Never thought, imagined. And they told me it was my dad. I was like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. 3 months, within 3 months. So that's what happened. My stomach just tightened up. I couldn't breathe. I don't know whether I had a panic attack, what have you, really anxious panic attack, started sweating. My palms were sweating. And just, I know a lot of people, when they hear all the bad news, same thing should, happen to them too as well. Everybody's individual. But for me, it was terrible.
If you don't mind me asking, how did they pass?
Both of them of heart attack.
Wow. And how old were they?
My mom was only 42. My dad was 52, 53. We ended up with our grandparents.
What was that new life like, going from California, going to Beverly Hills High School?
Yes.
To now you're living in New York with your grandparents.
It was really a great adjustment.
Wow.
Yes. I mean, our grandparents did their job already, right?
Yeah.
Raising all their kids, right? Now, all of a sudden, a teenager's coming into their lives. I mean, that's ridiculous. It was not an adjustment for them. It was an adjustment for us too. It's crazy, right?
Was there any sort of hey, you're a woman, you're less than, you're gonna, we're gonna arrange you a marriage, we're gonna find you a spouse?
Oh yes, yes. And no, I was not gonna take that. No.
Was that pressure from your grandfather, from your grandmother, or just in general?
In general, but more so with my grandfather, because really old fashioned.
Yeah.
Right. And wow, it was really terrible. Oh yeah, we gotta have you taken care of, and you don't have to worry about nothing. And I'm like, who are you talking about? Really? I don't need anybody to take care of me.
Yeah, I'm Nikki. I'm independent.
I am really independent. It's just, I understand. On the other hand, I understand completely what they mean.
Yeah.
Okay, they want you to take care of you, and I could understand, but come on, it's our lives.
Yeah.
We have to do our own thing.
How different would your life have been if they arrange it for you? It's to me,
I sometimes wonder. I really do. I sometimes wonder what would have been again. My life would have been again. But you know what? I think it would have been so boring.
You graduate high school and you go to college.
That's correct.
And a couple years in, it's not working out for you.
No, it's not.
What happens next?
Of course, it was only 5-15 minutes away. The college was 5-15 minutes away from my grandparents' house. And I lived in a dorm. One day I was going back and forth doing laundry and everything, right? And I come across, by driving back and forth, I come across this billboard. It says, "Be all you can be in the Army." And I'm trying to figure out, okay, what does that mean? All I saw was a woman silhouette. Be all you could be in the Army, right? And I'm like, I don't know about this. Let me go back and forth, right? Again, same place. And I see that. And I'm like, there's something going on here. There has to be something, like a signal or something. Okay, because this is not working out for me. I'm not academically inclined at all compared to my sister. Nothing. And I knew something was up. I knew something has to be there. Okay, so now I'm like, just stood there with my clean clothes, like in my car, just looking up and like, this is crazy. No, not now. Go back and forth, and I finally made the decision. I say, I don't even know what I'm getting into. I don't know what that means. Okay, so nobody told me what it is or what. So I guess, okay, this is a great escape plan, right? So now I'm like, I need to do something about this. So I did. That day only, I went, called up the recruiter, went there, and I just told the recruiter that sign me up right now. And they're like, okay, but don't you want to see what you want or anything? I mean, what? I wish all the recruits could be like you, right?
Do you know what you're signing up for?
And I'm like, no. Just sign me up right now. Showing me all this stuff. And I said, don't you want whoever your family is for, no, I don't want to say nothing. I just want to sign up right now.
I want to be all I can be.
Exactly. Well put.
Where do I sign?
Okay. So I said, I don't care what you give me, any occupation, just sign me up.
Did you know, or did someone tell you, or when did you find out that you were the first woman of Indian descent to join the U.S. Army?
I had no idea. They told me, oh, you're from India. I said, yeah. And they were like, wow, come to think of it, there's no Indian woman in the military. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, right?
Wow.
Yeah. And I thought, I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. So here I am, trying to tell my grandparents, but I just told them at the last minute.
Yeah. Hey, guess what I did today?
Yeah.
Your laundry? No, I did more than that. I joined the U.S. Army.
And they were like, what?
It's like, do you know what you're getting yourself into, Nikki? No, but I signed.
But I signed up, yeah. My grandfather, especially, he just couldn't believe it. He just couldn't believe it. He said, what makes you think you could do it? Here we are picking up your cousin brother from New York to Texas. And what makes you think you could do it? Your cousin couldn't do it at all.
So your cousin tried and couldn't do it?
No.
That's very significant.
I know.
In the Indian culture, if a man can't do it, there's probably a good reason that a woman couldn't.
Exactly. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Watch
even
me.
more. Push me even more.
Wow.
And I never get up early in the morning. But that day, I woke up early. Actually, I didn't even go to sleep. My sister knew something's going on here. And then she was like, so what are you going to tell them? I said, just watch. I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm nervous. I don't know what to do. Here I am in the kitchen on the table. Okay. My grandmother comes. She's like, that's odd. Why you're up early? You never wake up early. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Orange juice. Then my grandfather comes and he's like, what's going on? And I just told him straight up and looked at me and he's like, no, you're not. And I, yes. And here we are knocking on the door. It was my recruiter.
Wow.
Knocking on the door. And I'm like, I was arguing with my grandfather. I opened up the door and I'm like, I'll be right out.
Yeah. Give me a minute.
And the recruiter said, Oh, okay, okay, but don't take that long. But yeah, yeah. And I'm like, oh my God. I went back and I said, no, I, I have to do this. You're not gonna get me married off. That's not right. I'm not gonna force somebody to love me or what have you. And it's not my thing right now.
Wow.
I have to do what I have to do, and it's a feeling, do you know? And he said, well, if you get out of here, that's it. That's it. You're cut off and whatever, you know. And I said, well, okay, so be it. And it was the first time ever that I spoke out to my elder,
Wow.
because we don't do that. We have respect. But at that time, I believed in something, and I had to do what I had to do. And I mentioned my mother, and it was really hard on me saying that, like, you didn't let her do what she wanted to do. But you know what? I'm gonna break that cycle. You're not gonna boss me around. You're not gonna tell me not to do what I want to do. What have you? That's it. But this is the time, and that's it. I left, and there, at that moment, I was born.
You're in the Army now.
Yes,
You decided to take control of your life. You made a decision. You spoke up against
I
your
did.
elders.
I did.
You wanted to be all you can be.
Yes.
Now you're a woman in the U.S. Army.
I should describe, it was really scary. Like, first of all, I didn't know what to expect. All I knew, it's going to change my life. Some kind of a signal or sign that, okay, this is what it is. Um, I see all the women, but I felt that, like in training, we're all trained with women, and back then it was males were separate than of females. But I felt kind of out of place, in the sense of, like, what am I doing here? What did I do? Maybe my grandfather was right. It was like a lot of doubts. And then a small little voice came up to me and said, no, you will do it. Don't give up now. You know, don't give up now. I don't know whether, was it my mom? Was it my dad? Or was it both?
What would your parents have said had they known you were going to join the U.S. Army?
Both of my parents would have been confused.
Nikki, what are you doing, Nikki?
They would have been totally confused, out of the norm. Like, believe it or not, nobody in my family are in the military at all. I'm the only
Even
one.
in the Indian military?
Yes.
Wow.
Nobody. My parents would have thought, like, wow, my daughter. Something different. She put her foot down. you know, Probably, I don't know exactly what they would have thought, but they would have been proud of me.
When you hear stories like about what happened to Vanessa Guillen, what crosses your mind when you hear that? Did you see that often? Like, did you
I mean,
experience that?
sexual trauma, sexual harassment. Yes, I was part of it. I've been harassed and sexual harassed. Yes, so I know uh, what she must be going through. It's an embarrassment, scared. And yeah, I know that story about her, what happened exactly. And more so, maybe nobody's telling us what happened. It's all hush hush.
Why would that be happening to our people? Why would we be sabotaging our own people? Like, they're serving our country.
Yes.
And then you hear stories about that. And it's hard to believe as a civilian to hear that. In my mind, and I respect the military, to law enforcement, military. They're up here with respect because of what they stand for. You know what they do for us. And then to hear stories like that, like it's mind boggling. It's like, is that happening in our country?
It happens everywhere, not in the military. Harassment, it's really bad, obviously. It's all about power, as I see it. And I mean, all the work environment everywhere you step into or anything, even your own family members, they harass you, they sexually molest you, or what have you. And I don't know why they do that. Is there it has to be some reason? Maybe there's no reason at all. Like I said, it's probably the power to do whatever you want to do.
In the military, you see it happening or it's happening to you. Like, what do you do?
I was scared. I was really, really scared. I didn't know what avenues to take. I didn't even know what to do. But there's always a third party. And there was a third party, my roommate. She witnessed and she like, gotta do what we gotta do. Let's go. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Because afraid of about retaliation, like, what is it?
Retaliation.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So you're basically afraid about that because you don't want any problems. You don't want, especially in the military, you don't want any problems, but that is wrong. You need to speak up. There's always a risk.
Yeah.
They want to help you out. Only so much they could do. I mean, it is what it is, and I don't want to say that, but either you get transferred out, they getting transferred out, or they get kicked out. For some reason, they don't. And it had happened to me.
So during one of the breaks in your military career, you were a corrections officer.
That's correct.
At Rikers.
Yes.
I'm going to try to paint a picture. Okay.
You're crazy.
Because in my mind, Rikers is like one of the top, correction facilities. I understand it's a holding place, right? It's not a federal prison.
Exactly. No, it's a holding place.
You're 4'11".
Yes.
And I'm not holding that against you. I'm just
No.
painting a picture.
Fine.
You're petite. You seem very nice. Non-confrontational. And here you are, a corrections officer.
That's correct.
At Rikers.
Yes.
Like what is that like for you, Nikki?
Wow. Again, I guess I like challenges. I don't know. I mean, and I'm wearing different parts of hats, I guess.
Yeah.
So I tried out for it and I got the job. And I'm like, okay, fine. Rikers Island. Yeah. But never worked in women's jail at all, actually.
Wow.
I was assigned to all male. At first, I thought everyone should die. Everyone should get death penalty. Everyone should, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Because of what they were accused of doing.
Right. I dealt with murders in the first, second, rapists, child molesters, whatever you could think of. As the years go by, the months, I realized that in the blink of an eye, I could be in that situation too. So then I tried to get to know them, believe it or not, to be open-minded.
You were now sympathetic for them? Were you trying to understand how they got to where they got? What is the reasoning for you speaking to these inmates on a daily basis, on a personal level?
Understanding them, definitely more so than anything, because there is somebody out there, the individual that has like heart, feelings, but regardless of the situation, they did what they had to do. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why? They couldn't answer me that question. It is what it is. I did it. All I could do is hear them out, as no one can, no one does hear them out regardless. And when I started working there, it was my shift. It was my show. Yeah, they tested me out. Believe me, trust me. I changed 4 uniforms within a day because they used to spit at me. That's an assault. They would throw feces at me.
Wow.
Water, pee, everything. they want to test you out. Like, how much could you take? And especially me, 4'11", a woman. She's not going to survive here at all, right? You want respect from inmates, but then at the same time, you got to respect them. Yes, there is a line that you cannot cross, and they cannot cross the line.
Do you think you changed people's lives?
Yes,
Just
actually.
speaking to them?
Yes.
Wow.
I mean, I've come across some of my inmates, and nobody would call me Miss M, but one day, like, traveled in the train, and one day I heard Miss M, and I'm like, who would call me that? Only in jail, an inmate, because nobody calls me Miss M. So, and I was like, what? So I got out of jail. I'm doing really well thanks to you. I have family now. I got to work
Wow.
in a coffee shop. And I'm like, oh my God. First, it made me feel like scared in a way because, oh my God, he's out. And
Yeah.
what's going to happen to me,
Oh,
right?
wow.
You don't know which, I don't know. But the way he came towards me, it was friendly. He was soft spoken. He's like, I have so much respect for you. You changed me. And that kind of made me feel like, aw, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it made me feel so
Like you made a difference.
yes. And I said, did I make a difference to you? Really? And he says, yes. And that made me like, oh my God.
Wow.
That was a lovely feeling right then and there.
You were a police officer in New York during
Yes.
9/11.
Yes.
What was that like for you as a police officer and as a Middle Eastern in New York during a time where a lot of Americans are getting introduced to the Eastern world and seeing everybody of brown skin color as a potential threat? There's a stigma that goes around that anybody who's from the Middle East might have been involved in what happened in New York. Does any of that play out for you? Like, what was that whole experience like?
I see what you were asking me, and I witnessed that, a lot of different bias. Like, at first they would look at me and they would never guess that I'm Indian because I don't have that accent. Sometimes I do, but sometimes I don't. Sometimes New York accent or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, sometimes I would think that way. Like, I'm from India. Like, they were like, oh, okay. So, because I'm not Afghani,
Sure.
I'm not Pakistani, you know. But mainly they would say, like, okay, are you Pakistani? Are you Afghani? And I said, no, I'm from India. So I'm Hindu. There's a difference between Muslim and Hindu, and, but I never felt that way. Nobody treated me differently. But all they said, okay, she's from India. That was it. But I didn't like anybody treating Muslims and Pakistanis because there's a lot of good people.
Were you at Ground Zero?
Yeah, I was assigned to Ground Zero, checking all the IDs and making sure the perimeter, and at that time, military police, that was my occupation.
How long after the planes hit the tower do people start to think, was this an accident or are we under attack?
Right away.
Really?
Yes, right away. At first, nobody said anything about accident. It was a terror attack. Right away.
Very intentional.
Yes.
And with your military background, like, what goes through your mind? You thinking, we're going to war? I've got to be ready. Like,
Oh, yeah. It was right away. War. Right away. I mean, packed all my stuff. At that, it was closely no communication, but there was communication at first. But then all of a sudden, it just went off, all the communication. But I knew it was like really heartbreaking I mean, I felt same situation and the feeling how I felt with my both parents. My tightness, my stomach. I couldn't even breathe. It was terrible, like really, really terrible. So I knew right then and there, just something's gonna happen. Like packed all my stuff, and that's it.
We're going to war.
Yeah, I knew it. At first, I couldn't see nothing. I couldn't. I mean, it was like windy. It was like some kind of a set on a movie.
Wow.
I mean, as if it was just people were just rolling and filming everything. It felt like that. Am I getting filmed or what's going on? But at the same time, it was really heartbreaking to see everybody like right there, like it was terrible.
Let's talk about your time in Afghanistan. And this was your first time in an active war zone while you were in the military?
Yes, my first time.
I know a lot of people thought you were Hispanic or you weren't
Yes.
Middle Eastern, but you're
Yes.
going to Afghanistan.
Yes,
You go into the Middle East as a woman in the U.S. Army.
yes.
Like, what was there like some sort of shock from the natives in Afghanistan, or maybe even from your people in the U.S. Army going with you
Yes,
to
both
Afghanistan?
actually. And also we were dealing with all the Talibans because their mission was like just like correction in jail. And we were trying to get all the Talibans out. And the intel captain told me that, okay, have the ears and the eyes because you know how to speak languages, which I do.
So
Did I say that too? I'm just kidding.
no, I mean that's interesting because
Yes.
you're now a huge asset for the U.S. Army.
Yes.
Going into Afghanistan because you can speak the language.
Yes.
You can hear what they're saying. You can understand, and you can provide that intel
Yes.
to the U.S. Army.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Talk a little more about that if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind. Of course, then again, I'm not in the military no
Sure,
more, so I
sure.
could just last. They put me on intel unit. Of course, everybody knew that I spoke languages and I'm from India, so this would be perfect opportunity to have the ears and the eyes. So they sent me out and a let them know because of course they will think that you're Hispanic, so they would
Yeah.
not guess at all, but go back and forth, and that was my job actually. One of the person recognized me from the first deployment in Afghanistan. The first deployment in Afghanistan, I was in charge. I was working in the office. I was in charge of all the transportation, whether coming in, coming out, checking IDs, putting everything on a board, how many passengers, how many, drivers back and forth. And there was a translator and just talking to me and knew that I was from India. And I'm like, okay, after so many years, all of a sudden you would think, oh, you would forget about that person, right? All of a sudden, he remembered me. And he was like, wait a second, I know you. And I'm like, what? I know you. You had a little bit of long hair, but now you have short hair. I know you. As you got mistaken. I don't know what you're talking about, but this is my first deployment.
Wow. This is
Okay.
a local that recognized you?
A translator.
Okay.
With the U.S. Army translator. That was a contract.
Okay.
But then all of a sudden, then I'm like, how the hell did he get in jail though? How? Then I took a step back. I started breathing heavily. I'm like, oh my God. Okay. So I turned around. I said, oh, okay, you want the blanket? Just acting it out. Like, you want the blanket? What do you want? Da da da, whatever. What have you. And I left. And right away, I told my captain, I said, we have a problem here. This translator recognized me from my first deployment. And you would think that everybody would forget. That's it. That was the first deployment. Yes. and he had to pull me out.
They recognize you and say, okay, she knows more than she's pretending to know. She speaks
Exactly.
the language
Yes.
we speak.
Yes.
Okay, so at that point, maybe you're in danger.
Because I do remember the
Yeah.
first deployment that I was talking to him, and he
Yeah.
came forward. Oh, you're Indian, da da da.
Mm.
I knew.
You
but
recognized him, but you
yes.
instantly have to pretend like
Yes.
it's the wrong person.
Exactly. I knew him correctly, like definitely.
Like, oh, dang it.
Exactly. So even my intel unit, my captain, they're like, oh no, we don't have anybody speaking that language now.
Do you want to speak on what happened when you left the perimeter for the first time in Afghanistan?
Yeah, I would get to that situation, but before that, obviously, I was the first woman. They tried all the women to get to work with the guys, right? The QRF team is Quick Reaction Team.
Okay.
Okay, so that was outside the wire because women were not allowed to go outside the wire, right? So we did a lot of different type of tests in order to pass it, and I got picked for it, and it was my first outside the perimeter. What should I say? After the my mission. That was my first mission. Okay, to go outside with my men. So, yeah, that's what happened exactly. Yeah, we were just minding our own business, going through, driving away. And here we are, like, heard one of my sergeants say, hey, just eyes open, hearing everything, just drive around, see everything's good to go. Because it was a mountain range, everything was just sandy. It was hot, like really hot. Then all of a sudden, we see this truck. I really vividly remember it was a red stripe pickup truck. It was a white color pickup truck, and there were 3 passengers. Okay. Driver, passenger, and the backseat passenger. So now in our Humvee, there we have like a driver, a passenger on the right side passenger, back side passenger. There's a gunner who looks through everything on the top of the Humvee, and the driver always stays with the vehicle. The gunner also stays with the vehicle because there's 50 cal up, mounted up there. So there was a truck, and we had to pursue. We already communicated with our sergeant, stating that there's one truck there ahead of us. Something's going on. It was suspicious. We had to pull them over. At first, we were like hauling ass, and we were like really on speed mode. And all of a sudden, they slowed up. So we obviously slowed up, right? And we just like a regular police officer, you get out and check everything. So that's what we did. I was still inside the vehicle. The gunner was there and the driver. The other 2 got out. Now, me and the gunner, I don't know what his problem was, but we were arguing back and forth. He didn't want me to get out. First of all, I understand you want to be protective, and the sergeant told you to be protective of me because as a female, this is the first time ever we went on a mission together. So now me and him back and forth, and I got really mad, like really frustrated and mad. Like, what am I doing here? Why am I here then if I cannot do anything, right? And the other 2 soldiers were trying to ask them for their credentials, just like ID, but there they say credentials. They wouldn't understand. The soldiers couldn't understand them, and they couldn't understand the soldiers. So now I'm like, Okay, so I tell the gunner, dude, I know the language. Maybe I could help them out. No, you're not going anywhere. I said, then how are we going to look at the credentials then? Yeah. Then we have to report back to the sergeant, right? So, I go there regardless. I step in. That guy, he was all like, everything was covered. All I could see was his eyes. He found out that I was a woman. Because when you wear all your uniform, the jacket, all the Kevlar and all the plates and your weapon and everything, you cannot distinguish between, is that a woman or is that a man? You would always think that it's a man. Sure. Because you know what I mean. So obviously with me talking, and right away he just sized me up, and he knew, and he got meaner and meaner and meaner. He said something like a really bad, like, speech. I, understood. And I'm like, oh my God, like piercing eyes. And I've never seen that before. It was like a devil, or like, I don't know, piercing. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know about this. And I tried to talk to them in my language. They did not budge at all. I knew something was up. I knew. The other two soldiers, they were just standing there. They didn't move. They were just standing there like a statue. And I'm like, oh my God, okay. So the gunner was like, go back right now. And I'm like, no, I want to talk to them. You want the credential? That's how we're supposed to be doing. That's what the sergeant told us to do. And as I got back and back, I knew something was up. I felt something was wrong. I don't know whether the other soldiers felt the way I felt. Something suspicious, right? I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know. All I knew, thought about all the training that we had over and over again, embedded in our heads. All I could think of is, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, what's going to happen? Like, and got back, and I saw a gun. The guy. I thought
in the
he
white
was
truck.
right. I thought he was going to show the credentials, but it was a gun, and I saw it, and I said, gun, gun, gun. And whenever we train and whenever we say gun, gun, everybody has to get down, like take cover. But nobody did. That's what I'm trying to find out, and I'm like, oh my God, like, how can that be? How can that be possible?
So he reached for a gun. You saw the gun. You said gun, 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 and nobody hit the deck.
No. Even the gunner didn't do anything. I mean, it just does not make sense. So why do I have to, like, the gunner? That's what the gunner is all about. He's on top. He sees everything. He has a 50 cal. That's his job, to see all that. So I don't know exactly what happened. Is it because me and him were arguing? Would the mindset was different? So all these questions arise. Like, did I do something wrong? Or it's crazy, right? I mean, wouldn't you think like, okay, well, this is what we were trained to do.
Yeah.
And when it happens, how come nobody did anything?
You respect the person saying it. It's a real thing. Hit the deck.
It's not a training session.
Yeah.
Like, it's not. And so I'm trying to figure out like why they were not thinking about that. Either it was us or it was them. Yeah. Because if it was us, all of us, I wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be talking to you. So I don't know what exactly happened. So I pulled the trigger. Okay, yeah, pulled the trigger. So I don't know whether there were contractors. I have no idea. There were actual bad people. I mean, why they didn't stop at the first place? How
Yeah.
come they didn't give us credentials that we were talking about? How come they were acting as if they didn't know what we were saying?
Yeah.
I mean, did they understand me or they did not understand me? That was a big question. I have no idea. And then after that, they were like, we had to head back to the base and asking all these questions. What's going on? And like investigation arise, as far as that goes. What did you do? How come you didn't do this? How come you did? Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, you would have been all dead. I had to do what I had to do.
At what point did you realize after you pulled the trigger that something bad happened?
At that moment, given time, that was my first time, like pulling the trigger. Actually, you would think all the training, but this is not training. This
Yeah.
was like live.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's an active war zone.
actually, yeah, it was my first experience, but it didn't happen the way it should have been.
Does that play in your head all the time?
Yeah, all the time, all the time. I mean, I've been getting help actually through the VA psychiatry. So they tell me over and over and over and over again, like embedded. I had to do recordings over and over again. I don't know what is that reason to do repetition. Like, what were you wearing? Did you smell anything? Did you feel anything? Yeah. Was it hot? Was it cold? Like, did you feel the sand? Do you know, like, was your clothes like embedded in sand or whatever? You know, were you sweating? Were you not sweating? And I'm like, why are you asking me all these questions? Like over and over again. I'm like, stop it. I can't do it. I can't. Do you know what I mean? But slowly but surely, I'm getting into like, it is what it is. And it was accidental. I'm trying to, within myself, I'm trying to, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, it's okay.
The training you went through taught you how to respond, and you responded in kind, the way you were trained to do.
Yeah.
And it accidentally resulted in friendly fire. I can never feel what you're feeling. This is something you live with that I don't. And as many times as you've had to replay it in your head, maybe vocalize it, write it down. This is something that only you can feel. Do you blame yourself for that? You acted the way you were trained to react.
Yes, I did what I had to do, what we were trained to do. Um, in a way, yes. I do blame myself, but then I have to think about, if I had not opened fire, we would have been dead, regardless whether they shot us or we shot them. So,
Wow. Do you ever, maybe your psychiatrist has mentioned or spoken for or against this, but uh, this young man's family, you ever thought about reaching out to them?
yes. Um, and then no. I mean, it's like I'm complex. It's a complex.
Because you live this scene, you relive it daily.
Yes.
and you think about it, and I guess you're a tough woman, and you've been through a lot, you've seen a lot, but just like the way you would speak with these people at Rikers, like you're sympathetic, right? You have a heart. You feel for people. Everybody has their story, and you were part of something that was tragic, but you're a human too, right? You feel this. This is something that you experience daily. Are you looking for closure, or do you have the closure already, and it's just having to replay in your head every day?
I don't think I'll ever have a closure because it came from me. I don't think I don't know exactly what exactly happened through my head, like when it happened. I sometimes wonder, like, how come I was the only one?
Yeah, that
Did
reacted.
I was not a leader, I mean, I was not like, you know, I don't know. Apparently everybody froze, but why did I take that? I, you know, so, but at the same time, in reality, there's no closure. I don't think it is.
Even speaking with this man's family,
Um,
do they know what happened?
Not really. You know how military is. They don't, no.
You served our country, and you've seen things unimaginable. You've experienced things unimaginable that most civilians will never even think is real or possible.
I'm trying to, in a way, my mind, like trying to move on. So that's the only thing I could think of. My family tells me, yes, it is difficult, but you need to move on. It will be okay, and it is getting okay. So slowly but surely, if it was back then, I wouldn't be able to talk to you like, you know.
Yeah.
I stopped driving at nighttime. I don't like it because of all the shadows, the lights, and everything. And sometimes I feel I got to be really careful, and all that comes to play. So it's like I take it uh, day by day, actually, and hour by hour, minutes by minutes, and that's all I could do. When I first joined the army, first I thought, like, okay, well, was it escape? Was I selfish
Hmm.
because of me? Even it hurts me now that I left my sister behind. See, she was only a teenager too. She was younger than me,
Yeah.
alone by herself with my grandparents. That's the one it hurts. But even till now, I mean, I'm like, oh my God, could you imagine? 13, 14 year old, alone by herself, and regardless what we went through.
Yeah. Already having had lost your parents,
Yes.
now her only older sister is going
Yes.
into the army.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
But I think you've said in the past that she said you did what you had to do.
Yes.
And as much as you feel some guilt about leaving her behind,
Yes.
she, being the younger sister, still understands
Yes, she did.
you have to do what you have to do.
She does. She does still. Yes. And she's proud of me, and I'm proud of her. I didn't even know what I was getting into.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what push up meant. I didn't even know what sit up was. I was never an athletic person.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to shoot a gun, a weapon, the grenades. I mean,
Yeah.
all that. I didn't even know what I was getting into.
But a sign said, "Be all you can be."
Yes, be all you could be. I mean, it doesn't even have to be army, right?
Yeah.
Be all you could be. Whatever you want to get into, just have faith, pray, and be yourself. And you have to do what you have to do, like I did. If you see me, you could do it.
Yeah.
I'm 4'11". I'm a woman. I mean, it was hard. I have short legs. I mean, I've been sweating and sweating and sweating.
Yeah.
But I see this guy over there training, no sweat at all. And sometimes I feel like, gosh, I want to be a guy for one day. I want to just pass everything, no
Yeah.
sweat, just jumping, doing all the obstacle course. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. But yeah, I just like want you guys to know that just be positive.
Yeah.
I mean, everything will come to you, you know, and I mean, everything came to me, you know, and the way I was before, clueless, no self-esteem, no confidence, and the way I am right now. Yeah. And even though I'm finished with it, got out 2018, and, you know, and I feel Army, military, doesn't have to be Army, could be any forces. It'll give you some kind of accomplishment. And I loved it, not liked it. I loved it. It changed me. Wow. It gave me kind of a security. It gave me a job. Yeah. It gave me a career.
So if I said Nikki Mehta is, finish this sentence.
Gosh.
Happy?
Wow. Yeah. Nikki Mehta accomplished everything, but yet to accomplish everything. I tell everybody, don't do it. Don't join the Army for the wrong reasons. Join the Army because you want to and you have that feeling. Yeah. I didn't do it for money. I didn't because I enjoyed it. Yeah. I knew what I was getting into after the fact, and it gave me security. And also, I think it's psychologically, it took a place of my parents. The Army raised me. So that's what I wanted to get it out there. So that's why I said when I first joined, the recruiter got me. I wasn't born back then. I was born when I left.
Thank you so much. Really, I know we've spoken about this, and I'm glad we were able to make it happen. I want your story to be out there.
Thank you.
You've lived an incredible life, and when I piece your story together, it sounds like I'm talking about 10 different people. Like it's so much to think that one person lived that life. It's really incredible. You've defied the odds. You've overcome the naysayers and the doubters. In your culture, maybe you've surpassed what is expected of a woman, and you've done it. And I know you go through things on the daily that most civilians and even military personnel might never understand. You can be in the military your entire life and maybe never step foot in an active war zone. You've accomplished so many good things in your life, Nikki, and you've touched so many people. You've impacted many lives. You're a role model to your sister. Your parents would be proud, and it's easy to sit and reflect on maybe failures or things I could have done better, right? But that's what makes us unique. We go through certain things that we don't understand. We can go our entire lives and never figure it out.
That's right.
But that's what makes us unique. We're sitting down talking, and if your life was perfect, maybe we would have never met, right?
Exactly.
And if you were a complete failure, maybe we would have never met. Like just the way your life unfolded is defined you. You know, it's who you are. And I really appreciate you sharing your story. It's really incredible. I know you say you've accomplished so much, but you're not done yet. So I think there's still more around the corner for you.
Hopefully,
I guess I'm creative. A lot more things you want to do, and I really want that for you.
Thank you so much. I wish I could show everybody the segments, but I don't have anything to show it. But thank you for having me, Tony, and thank you for listening and sharing. And I know everybody has their own individual stories.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes I want to listen to everybody else's story, not only mine, but sharing things, and that would be nice. But overall, thank you for having me and asking questions and talking to me and interesting and
no, it's been fun, Nikki. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.